Hi, and welcome to this online course. This course is being offered absolutely free of cost to ensure that it reaches all those in need, irrespective of social and economic circumstances. Also, through these courses, we want to achieve our vision to improve the lives of 1 million people. So please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do go through the do's and don'ts of online learning before you start. Pause the video wherever required and make notes. Wish you all the very best and happy learning. Hi and welcome to Certified Entrepreneurship course. This is a free course for those who dream to be self-reliant entrepreneurs. Let's start this session with a beautiful quote by Nolan Bushnell, who says, "The true entrepreneur is a doer and not a dreamer." Yes, of course, you need to dream big, but more important than dreaming, you need to do things. Let me quickly take you through the session plan. We will start with introduction and course objectives. Then we will go on to define entrepreneurship and startup. We'll understand the key traits required for entrepreneurship. Then we will move on to generating business idea, being part of a solution. Then we will understand how feasibility study needs to be conducted. That is, can the idea generate revenue? We will next understand what is a business plan. Under that, how to create an elevator pitch and a pitch deck. We will also understand the types of businesses and companies, how to get the initial investment for business. Finally, you will have a case study and exercise, which is going to be mandatory for certification. In the end, we will have queries and feedback for the entire session. Let us now start with introduction to the course and course objectives. This entrepreneurship course aims at fulfilling the below key objectives. Number one, to induct potential entrepreneurs into the world of entrepreneurship. This is an exciting world, and through this course, we want to induct you to this new world, which is very different from a corporate world. Number two, to ensure that the journey of an entrepreneur and the key traits required are clearly understood. What is seen is many people jump into entrepreneurship looking at the attractiveness of it from outside, and after a few days they realize that some key traits or things which are required for entrepreneurship are missing in them. So it's very important for you to understand what is needed for this journey. Number three, to help build a business from scratch. That is, generating idea to getting investment to running it profitably. Let us now move on to the second session of the course, defining entrepreneurship and startup. An entrepreneur is an individual who undertakes the creation, organization, ownership, and risk of a business. Now, that's a definition of an entrepreneur. Let's understand what is entrepreneurship now. It is just an activity of setting up a business, taking financial and other risks in the hope to make profit. Now, any entrepreneur starts a business in the hope to make profit, and he does not only take financial risk, mind you, but he takes many other risks, including personal and professional risks. Now, let us understand what is a startup, because this is a term very commonly used in entrepreneurship and the startup era nowadays. So let's understand it better. Startup is a young, that is relatively new company founded by one entrepreneur or a set of entrepreneurs to develop a unique product or service and bring it to the market. New age startups are technology driven, innovative, and scalable. Now, all the three terms are to be understood very, very thoroughly. They are making best use of huge consumer demand, improving technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., and increased smartphone and internet usage in India and around the globe. What is happening with new age startups is All of them are technology driven. So you can take any examples around you like Paytm, Amazon, Flipkart, Byju's, Big Basket, take any example, all of them are technology driven. Mainly because the startups want to scale themselves. If you are not driven by technology, so now opening a small grocery store in your own area is also a kind of entrepreneurship. But scaling that business is very difficult. So that's why technology is taken as a foundation on which the startups are built, so that they can be scaled to a very, very big numbers. Also, innovation is very important. Now, startup does not mean you have to invent something. There is a difference between invention and innovation, right? Invention is coming out with something absolutely new, but innovation is not like that. You need to find out better ways to do even the same things which you are doing earlier. That's what new age startups are doing. I hope this definition of startup is clear to you. Let's now understand how was this entire ecosystem of startups and entrepreneurship is in India and also across the globe. Number one, demographics. Now, if you observe, especially in India, we have 1/6 of the world population. Now, that is huge, all right? And most of our consumers or the population is basically in the middle class. And the ability to spend, the disposable income is increasing because of the entire, not the entire, but at least the major proportion of the population being in middle class. The ability to spend is much higher. It is actually helping the startups and the entire ecosystem of entrepreneurship. Plus, it's not only having huge disposable income, but also in terms of age, India is very, very young as compared to many other countries around us. So that's one very good point, I would say, which promotes and encourages entrepreneurship. Number two, demand. Because of obvious factors of demographics, we have huge consumer demand. You can take any kind of an innovative product or service, the demand is automatically built. If your product is solving some important problem, you have demand for it. So that's again one of the encouraging factors. Number three is technology. You all know technology is growing like crazy nowadays. So if you are supposed to give a, say for example, a presentation on Android, you have prepared some presentation on one version of Android tonight, and tomorrow when you go and present, there might be a new version of Android which has come up. That is the pace with which the technology is changing. In terms of software and hardware, it is absolutely going very, very fast, and that is actually helping the entrepreneurs to build new and innovative products and services. Marketing. There was a time when very old and conventional methods of marketing was used, like printing newspaper ads, going for hoardings, distributing leaflets, TV ads. Those are still there, but because of the changing times, marketing has also changed its form and features. Now is the time of digital marketing. Through digital marketing, the target consumers can be very easily targeted through focused advertisements, which you can see in Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and all the different online channels which are available. Number five, government. Indian government especially is in huge support of entrepreneurship. They have taken a lot of initiatives like Stand Up India, Startup India, digital initiatives. All these are actually building a beautiful ecosystem for entrepreneurship in India. Financial institutions like banks, even non-banking financial corporations, venture capitalists, a lot of people are there to support entrepreneurs now. So if you want some initial investment for the business, this is also a kind of support which is being provided. Incubation and support. You just have to be ready for entrepreneurship, and there are a lot of institutions like, let me give an example, NSRCEL, which is placed in Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore. NSRCEL is a incubation center who literally support and take the startup from idea phase to implementation and scalability stage for a lot of startups. Like this, lot of incubation centers are there across India now to support startups and entrepreneurs. Last but not the least, there is a huge entrepreneurs community which is growing in India. To give an example, there is something called TIE, TIE in Bangalore. Like that, there are a lot of, I would say, a network of entrepreneurs which is building, who are actually supporting each other in order to grow their own business as well as to support others who are getting into entrepreneurship. Now, if you see this entire ecosystem of starting from demographics to the entrepreneurs community, this entire thing is beautifully supporting an idea to do something on your own rather than just being an employee of an organization. So if you really want to get into entrepreneurship, I think it is the right time. Let us quickly understand both pros and cons of entrepreneurship. What happens is, yes, entrepreneurship is exciting. So that's the first advantage I have written. You will have a lot of freedom as compared to a job. Flexibility is amazing. You are fixing your work time. No one else is doing it for you. That's why you have a lot of flexibility and definitely higher income. But with the advantages also comes some limitations of entrepreneurship, like coping with failure. That's the biggest problem of entrepreneurship. You are bound to fail. There is no entrepreneur whom you can think of who has never failed. All right. So handling failure is definitely a part of your life once you become an entrepreneur, and that's the biggest limitation. Number two, unpredictability. In a job, things are very predictable. You have your phone beeping at the end of the month or first of every month, and you'll get a SMS saying that your account has been credited with this much of salary. That is never the case with entrepreneurship. The entire ecosystem, entire demand, supply, payment, everything is unpredictable. Competition is huge compared to a normal job or corporate life. When you become a businessman, you're dealing with a huge competition. And last but not the least, though you have a higher income, the income is definitely inconsistent and not like getting a salary in a corporate job. Now that we understood what is entrepreneurship, who is an entrepreneur, and what is a startup, let's get into what are the key traits required for an entrepreneur. The most important thing which is required is a growth mindset. I'll talk a little more about fixed mindset versus growth mindset very soon. Number two, handling failures and change. Be rest assured, change is the only constant in life. And as an entrepreneur, because of these changing circumstances, you are bound to fail. And handling failures is one very important trait you need to have as an entrepreneur. You can't just give up and say, no, I can't handle failure. That's how many entrepreneurs come into this journey, but soon they say that I'm not going to take this kind of a failure, and they go back. Number three, an entrepreneur is a continuous learner. The day you say that I know everything is when your growth stops. That's why having this attitude of continuously learning and adapting to the new changing environment is very, very important. The risk appetite of an entrepreneur should be very, very huge. Now, the risk, as I've already told during the definition, is not only financial risk, but many others. Like, you need to take risks in terms of your lifestyle, in terms of your spending, many things personally and professionally both. You need to definitely have a never give up attitude. Now, what happens is, now any idea cannot become super hit overnight. You need to have very much of patience and persistence. For that, you need to have this attitude of never give up. If you are very impatient, you want overnight success, this particular journey is not for you. Creativity versus, not versus, creativity and innovation. Now, both are very important. I'll talk a little more about creativity and innovation soon. Communication and confidence. As an entrepreneur, you need to communicate not only with your team members, with your colleagues, but many, many other people like government, incubators, financial institutions, your CA, your company secretary, so many people. So you need to be a great communicator, and you need to show that confidence when you're communicating with people. Last but not the least, teamwork and leadership. Please understand, nothing big has been achieved in this world by a single person. You always need to work in a team in order to achieve something big. You are definitely going to have a very apt team for your business and idea to grow. Otherwise, it is not possible. Also, because that's your business idea, your business, you need to be the leader who can show the right direction and give that focus to that wonderful team you have picked in order to start that business and grow it the way you want it to grow. Let us now get into a little more detail about one or two things under these entrepreneurial traits. The first one I'm going to talk about is creativity and innovation. To talk about creativity, I have taken a classic puzzle or a riddle which is around a century old. Some of you might already know it, but still I'm going to take it because this is very, very important. You can now see 9 dots on your screen. The challenge is very simple. Can you join all the 9 dots using only 4 straight lines? Plus, the condition is once you start drawing, you cannot lift your pencil, pen, or whatever it is. So that means it has to be a continuous pattern or a drawing. The first thing which comes to our mind when we see this particular riddle is we see a square or a box, right? Which is not there, but we assume it ourselves. That's why the name of this puzzle is out of box thinking. Because we draw an imaginary box, seeing those 9 dots, we start drawing the lines within that box. We never go out of it. So if you go a little out of the box, you'll get the answer for this particular puzzle. How to get the answer? This is the solution for this. So you can start anywhere. So you can move a little out of the imaginary box you have drawn. That is when you'll get the answer for the solution. Probably you can start at this point, move to your left, come down, go up, and like this. Now it is also showing a up arrow. That's the reason I have drawn it like this. You can draw it in multiple ways, but the key here is you have to move out of the box to get the solution, right? You can think of any creative people around you. You can think about artists, painters, innovators, scientists, like Thomas Alva Edison, for instance. All these people are very, very creative. They don't try to fall in line like most of the people. They are unique. They start thinking a little different. This is called creativity. What is innovation? It is just the application of creativity. You need to be creative and you need to apply that particular skill in order to get some products and services which are innovative. Some examples are right now in front of you on the screen. The first product here is laser keyboard. The second one is USB battery or cell, right? Third one is a self-counting piggy bank. Now all these products are a result of beautiful creativity and innovation, right? The 3 examples below here, all these 3 are services and also these are startups. Dunzo is a startup which can deliver anything, all right? So if you have forgot your keys at your home and you have already reached your office, you can book a Dunzo. The person will go to your home, collect that particular item for you and deliver it to your office. Anything can be delivered from anywhere to anywhere using this particular service, Dunzo. The second product which you can see here, the company name is Yulu, and this product is Yulu Miracle. It is an electric two-wheeler which can be used to do your intra-city travel. The third one here is Big Basket Instant. Now, I'm not talking about the food delivery here. This is a machine which is a refrigerator which has Wi-Fi, connectivity, many technology, I would say, enabled vending machine. So you can just go near the BB Instant vending machine, buy anything you want in that particular machine, and you can pay using your mobile wallet. Now, all these are a result of creativity and innovation, right? So now let me move on to the next key entrepreneurial trait, which is growth mindset. I'm definitely not going to take you through the entire thing which is shown on the screen right now. I request you to kindly pause the video at this point and go through all the things under fixed mindset versus growth mindset. If you are a person of a fixed mindset, you cannot take the challenges, you cannot take the changes which are coming up, you cannot handle failures which we have talked. All these things cannot happen to you. But for you to become an entrepreneur, you need to have the growth mindset. Growth mindset means you can view challenges as opportunities. You can acknowledge and embrace your weaknesses. Okay, you don't run away from it. You are a continuous learner. You take feedback very, very constructively. All these are things of a growth mindset. I again request you to pause the video at this point and go through what is fixed mindset versus growth mindset. The reason we took you through all these entrepreneurial traits is, ask yourself, do you think you are a person who lacks say 4 or 5 traits out of these 8? Maybe entrepreneurship is not your cup of tea. But if you think you have all these traits or skills in you, then welcome to this exciting journey. I'm sure as an entrepreneur, you will do excellent and you will have an exciting journey as an entrepreneur. Till now, we discussed about the introduction to entrepreneurship. Basically the definition, key traits required, etc. Now let's actually get into the process of entrepreneurship, starting from generating the business idea. Now, when you're talking about a business idea, please remember you always need to be part of the solution and not the problem. So what are the things you need to do? Number one, identify the pain point. We ourselves are also consumers, right? So please think, in our day-to-day situations, what is the pain point which we are going through? That is the starting point of generating a business idea. You can think of, okay, in my area, there are not enough restaurants. So if suddenly I want to go to take a bite, I'm not getting enough restaurants. As a consumer, that's your pain point. That might be the pain point for a lot of consumers who are thinking like you. Number two, think of an innovative solution for the pain point or the problem you have recognized. Just opening a restaurant need not be the solution. You can think of a solution which is a kind of innovative in nature. So as we have discussed in the traits of entrepreneur, you need to be creative and innovative to find out a very interesting solution. Maybe a different kind of a restaurant, just a takeaway or anything. Okay, bring some innovativeness in the solution you are giving for your pain point. Understand who's the target segment. When I'm talking about target customers, what I mean is you cannot target everyone. Okay, now you can divide your target customers based on the demographics, basically age, gender. You can think of a lot of things based on which you can classify your customer segment. Maybe you are only targeting bachelors, unmarried males as your customers in that particular area where you are serving the customers and whatever the restaurant you're opening. So please be sure of who is your target customer segment. Next important consideration for your business idea is, what is the market size? So if suppose you have drilled down on the target customer segment who are just the bachelors, and when you do a survey or you take a database and check, if that particular segment you're targeting is very, very small, no point in pursuing that idea, right? So you need to have a sizable market for your particular product or service, so that when you want to scale up, it will be very easy for you and you'll be able to generate good amount of revenues and profit. Last but not the least, any business idea. Now what happens generally is, whenever an entrepreneur or a potential entrepreneur comes up with a business idea, the first thing which comes to every entrepreneur's mind is that my idea is unique. No one can have this particular idea which I am having right now. But trust me, the same idea might have come to 1,000 other people, and you never know, people might have even started working on it. When you start doing the competitive analysis, you'll start getting so many products and services which are absolutely similar to the idea what you have thought of just now. That's where competitive analysis plays a very, very important role. I'll be sharing a lot of real life case studies so that this becomes clear to you. For now, for competitive analysis, there is one particular model called Porter's 5 forces, which will really help you in doing this particular analysis. What is this? Okay, let's understand this based on the example we have already taken, which is a restaurant business. So when you are planning to open a restaurant in one particular area, so how do you analyze the competition here? Number one, start with bargaining power of buyers. See if your target customers, how much bargaining power do they have? Do they have some ability to, influence the pricing of your product or service? Now, that is what I mean by bargaining power of buyers. Next comes bargaining power of suppliers. When you're opening a restaurant business, who are your suppliers? The suppliers of the vegetables, fruits, the packing material, so many things. All of these them are your suppliers, and you have to go in detail to analyze how is the supply chain working in your area, and do they have enough bargaining power, so that are they able to probably shift the price levels of your final product. That's what you need to check. Next comes threat of substitutes. What do you mean by substitute? Say if you're planning to open a pure veg restaurant in your area, think of what all other businesses can act as a substitute for your particular business. For instance, there can be a Pizza Hut near your place. There can be another small, roadside shop which is just selling dosa, idlis. There can be one place where they're just giving parcel of say some snacks kind of items. Think of what all can act as substitutes for you, and does it really pose a threat for your business? Number 4, you need to understand the degree of rivalry. So when you're opening one business, there can be many similar businesses in your area who can act as your rivals or competitors. So please understand in detail how much is the degree of rivalry. In some cases, it can be very small. Maybe in the radius of 5 kilometers, there are only 2 restaurants similar to what you are planning to open. Then the degree of rivalry is much less than when you are opening a restaurant in a place like Koramangala, for instance, in Bangalore, where there are a lot of restaurants similar to yours. Then the degree of rivalry is much higher. Last but not the least, under competitive analysis, understand the threat of new entrants. Now you have come up with a business idea, but there can be many others who can think of the same idea and start the business, right? Understand whether you have threat from new entrants, and are there a lot of players who are planning to do the same business as yours. Now this is a beautiful framework which is called Porter's 5 forces model to do the competitive analysis for your business idea. I hope I'm able to clear the part of generating the business idea. Quickly, let me summarize. Please be a part of a solution. Never think of focus more on the problem, but be a part of the solution. Identify a pain point of the customer as if you are the customer, and then start working on your solution or the service or product which you can offer to reduce that pain point. Once you have your business idea in place, the next step is to do a feasibility study. That is, can the idea generate revenue? This plays a very vital role. For this, there is a concept called MVP, or minimum viable product. I also call it a revenue case study. Now, what is MVP? Now, this particular picture is beautifully designed to make you understand that minimum, the most rudimentary, bare bones foundation of the solution possible. Viable is sufficient enough for early adopters of your product or service. And finally, what is a product? Something tangible for customers, for them to touch and feel. So let me give an example. I'll be taking this example for the next session as well. We started a small startup called My Original Work. Now the platform My Original Work was supposed to be for creative people, where they can showcase their products and services or their artwork. Also, they can sell their products online to the potential customers. Now, what is the MVP for that? MVP is a bare minimum website where a user or a creative person who is going to be our first level consumer can come in and upload his or her artwork to reach to a lot of people who are going to see it and appreciate the artwork. Now that's the basic level, and in order to sell their products and services, some basic integration with the payment gateway, some final logistics where the product can reach the customer. These are all required. In order to check whether this particular business idea can work or not, we need to do a small revenue case study. For that, we need to build a MVP or a minimum viable product, which is going to be a very basic form of a website where, as I said, the basic features for a contributor or a person who want to display the artwork and want to sell it can be done, and also the person who wants to buy that artwork can come on the website and buy that particular product. Through this, an entrepreneur is able to understand whether his business idea can actually generate revenue, or it was just an idea which came and probably it will not work in the real world. This is very important for all the entrepreneurs to do, to check whether the idea which they have generated can generate some real revenue or not. Next, we will move on to something called business plan. So under business plan, we'll also understand what is elevator pitch, pitch deck, etc. Business plan is a formal written document containing the business goals, how to achieve these goals, and also the time frame for the same. Now, if you see, business plan provides focus and direction for the business. Not only a startup, business plan is essential for any company for that matter, more so for startups because this is also essential for getting investment. When you as a startup is looking for investments, the first question which any investor is going to ask you, whether it is an angel investor, bank, venture capitalist, anyone, is what is your business plan? I was giving an example of my original work in the last session, right? So let's see the business plan of this particular venture or startup, my original work, just for your reference. Now, this will give you a kind of a clear idea of how a business plan is basically designed. Now, this is a sample business plan of my original work. Now, what are the different contents of this business plan? So you can see here, it has idea and assessment, target market, industry analysis, competitive analysis, vision and mission statement of the company and product platform description, who's in the team of the company or management, operational, marketing and financial plan. Now, this is the most important thing in the entire business plan. Some appendices and references. So if I go to the next page, it starts with idea and assessment. Now the idea is explained in detail. So as you remember, I told when you are generating a business idea, look at the pain point of the customer, right? So in the idea, pain point which is being addressed is explained here. Let me go to the next one. Now, I have also explained in this business plan how this idea is validated. Okay, again, this need hierarchy of creative individuals is also a part of the idea generation and assessment. Next comes target market. Remember in idea generation, I had also told about being very clear on who is your target market. That entire target segment is being explained here. So if you see who is the target contributor, the age, gender, demographics, behavior, every kind of segmentation is done for that particular segment. Also, the market sizing is done to understand that how big is this particular target market for the business, right? So this is sizing of the market which is being done. Next comes the industry analysis. Now you are very clear on your idea. You have explained why that idea can generate revenue, etc. You also have to explain how the industry is and how it is working. So next section of this business plan is industry analysis. The entire industry is being summarized in this particular segment, and who are the other players in the industry, who are the competitors, where does my original work fit in, all those things are explained in this particular segment. Moving on, competitive analysis. Remember we had talked about Porter's 5 forces model. Even when you are writing a business plan for your business, you have to do in depth the competitive analysis, and that also is a part of your business plan. So exactly similar to the explanation in the course, the 5 forces is being analyzed and being updated in the business plan. Next comes what is the vision and mission of the company. If you already have established a company, if you are going to discuss in the further sections, you can talk about the vision and mission statements, what are the core values of the company, etc. Then comes the product, the company, product, platform description. If you already have a company, when was it formed, who are the founders, what is the journey of the company, etc. Right? And finally, who are in the management team, operational, marketing, and financial plan. Now, this is, as I said, the most important part of the business plan. What is going to be your plan for the further operations and marketing of the company, and how you are planning to generate revenue for the organization. So here the business model is explained, the entire operational plan phase wise is being explained, and the marketing plan and financial plan. If you are a very new startup, you need to give at least 5 years of your financial planning and forecast. Even otherwise, you need to give earlier 3 years, and in future you have to forecast around 3 to 5 years of financials. Now, once these things are done, what is the ask for the funding if you are preparing the business plan for investments? Of course, some appendices are required. In this case, what is the questionnaire we used for the survey? Some certifications which have been taken by the company, like certificate of incorporation, recognition by government of Karnataka, etc. Some screenshots of the platform. Now, this is a MVP, or a minimum viable product, which I was talking about. Some reviews which the actual people who have tried this MVP have given. Now, all these can be coming in your appendices. Finally, some references. As I said, you can't take the data from your own head. You can't assume or imagine data. So these are the sources from which the information is being taken, like indiastat.com, Census India, startupindia.gov.in, etc. Now, this was a very clear explanation of how a business plan looks like. I hope this is clear for you. Let's now move on to the next section, which is pitch deck. Now, what is a pitch deck? It is nothing but a presentation of your business plan to the potential investors and stakeholders. So you need to convert this entire business plan into a presentation to quickly present in front of investors or bank or other stakeholders, your own team members, etc. The most important slide in the presentation or pitch deck is called elevator pitch. Now, why is this name elevator pitch given? Now, this has a very interesting story behind it. Just assume that you are entering your office, or you are going to meet someone in some tech park, and you just enter the elevator, and you happen to have one more person in the elevator, and he is a director of a huge venture capital fund. Now, this particular VC funds startups like yours, and you are badly in need of investment. Assume that the elevator is going from ground floor to, say, around 9th or 10th floor. Now, definitely as an entrepreneur, you will not waste this opportunity. Now, what are you going to talk to this man in those 40 to 45 seconds, so that before stepping out of the elevator, he gives his visiting card to you and says, please come and meet me in my office. If you are able to do that, you are really successful, right? That's why this particular thing is called elevator pitch. Okay, elevator pitch is that one slide which talks about the entire business idea. What can you talk about your business idea in very few lines, which can give a complete understanding to someone very quickly? Okay, so that's the key slide. All the pitch decks will have something called an elevator pitch. There is a sample pitch deck. So you have already seen the business plan of my original work. Let's also see how is the pitch deck being prepared. Now, this is the pitch deck of, or pitch presentation of my original work. Now, presentation flow is like this. Elevator pitch is the first and most important slide. Idea and assessment, target market, what is the value proposition, how is the industry and competition, introduction of the company and team, financial projection, funding requirements, and some appendices. Now, this is the vision and also the elevator pitch. In very few lines, how can you explain your business idea? Vision says to be India's biggest and most convenient online and or social media platform for original creative content, and biggest online marketplace for creative products and services by aggregating and providing platform for potential 250 million contributors or consumers. Now, in this 2 or 3 lines, you are actually talking entirely about your business idea, right? Moving ahead, idea and assessment. What is the pain point? Survey assessment, need hierarchy, how MOW or my original work is fulfilling the need, who's the target market, what is the size of the target market, value proposition, industry and competition, company's introduction, who's the team, financial projection and business model, funding requirement, and appendices. Like this, you actually cover all that is there in business plan in a quick presentation, which you are able to present to someone in say 10 to 15 minutes. I would recommend you to please rewind and again go through the same, because preparing of business plan and pitch deck is one very, very important step in your entrepreneurial journey. You might or might not use this for funding, but still it is very important because it gives a beautiful focus, and you will be very clear on what is the journey you are going to take in order to achieve what you want to achieve from your startup. Now, will you form the entity, the legal entity, before the business plan or after it is entirely up to you. But now in this session, let us go through the types of businesses or companies an entrepreneur can form in order to run the business. In this session, we have taken 4 examples of different types of businesses. What are the features of those types of businesses, and some examples for more clarity. The first and foremost and very simple form of company is sole proprietorship. What are the features of it? As the name itself suggests, it is single ownership. So the complete decision making power is with that one owner. Very least compliance requirements are there. Unlimited personal liability. Now, what does this mean? If suppose the sole proprietorship is under debt, now the entity is no different from the owner. So the entire liability will become the personal liability of the owner as well. In this form, it is very difficult to get new investors, and because it is sole proprietorship, you cannot add more partners to it. The examples are a local stationery shop, bakery, grocery store, etc. It is usually run by sole proprietorship, or some one owner is running the entire business. Let us get into the second one, which is called as partnership. Now, partnership is a little more complex than sole proprietorship. It has 2 to 20 partners. It's entirely up to the partners to choose the numbers. The partnership is based on profit sharing. That means the profit sharing can be based on the investment or any other agreement between the partners. The cost of formation of this type of entity is relatively low. Again, here also the liability is unlimited. That means if there are 3 partners running the partnership, all the 3 of them, depending on the ratio of their investment or the agreement which they have made, if there is a debt or a liability on the partnership, all the 3 of them are completely liable for it, and even their personal assets can be taken in case of a debt in the company. Examples are law firms, accounting firms, CA firms, all that you have seen, most of them run under partnership. Moving on to the third type, private limited company. What do you mean by private limited company? The name itself suggests that the liability is basically limited. In this case, company or the entity is different from the owners. How many shareholders are possible? 1 to 200 shareholders. Private limited company is actually scalable compared to the other 2 or the earlier 2 which we have discussed. Private limited company is definitely scalable. This actually eases the process of raising funds. Compliance requirement is much higher as compared to both sole proprietorship and partnership, because you need to file with MCA, that is Ministry of Corporate Affairs, every year. You need to file GST if you have taken an establishment. So many compliance requirements are there for a private limited company. Lesser tax advantages are there as compared to other forms of companies or entities. Example, of course, in the last session we talked about my original work under the company name MOW Solutions Private Limited. It is an example of private limited company. Of course, Arun's Academy, which we are seeing right now, is also a brand under MOW Solutions Private Limited. The fourth option, which is coming nowadays, and it is not very popular as much as private limited company, is called as LLP, or limited liability partnership. Similar to private limited company, liability here is limited to the number of shares which are owned by the shareholders. Moderate compliance requirements as compared to a private limited company, and tax advantages are much better as compared to private limited. Now LLP brings in all the advantages of a private limited company, plus it has lesser compliance requirements. That's why this particular form of an entity or structure is getting popular nowadays. Now, what do you mean by better tax advantages? When the profits are divided, there is something called dividend tax, which is there in private limited, which is not applicable in LLP, right? So examples, I can't think of much examples, but yeah, it is very, very similar to private limited, but with much lesser compliance. The next form of the company, which is not applicable to startups, is public limited company. For example, Infosys or ITC. Now, all these are public limited companies where the shareholding number is unlimited. Anyone, you and me, can also buy a share and become a part owner of that particular company. That is public limited. Now, when private limited company grows to a very big level and they are listed in stock exchanges, then it becomes public limited. Usually, those companies will not have public in their name. Infosys, for instance, the name is just Infosys Limited. All right. With this, we come to an end of the types of businesses. But apart from this, an entrepreneur needs to be aware of certain other things as well. Now, the types of companies is the kind of structure or legal entity which he or she is forming. But apart from that, what all are the things which an entrepreneur needs to be aware of are: one, permits and registrations; two, ROC and MCA, that is Ministry of Corporate Affairs, as I told you earlier; and Registrar of Companies, when you are registering your entity in Ministry of Corporate Affairs; IPR, that is Intellectual Property Rights, Copyright and Trademark. It can be a logo which is trademarked. It can be copyright of products, services, patents. All these things are very, very important. Contracts, when a startup or a company started, a lot of contracts are done with vendor suppliers, which you need to be very, very aware of. Taxation and GST. Earlier, there were a lot of direct and indirect taxes, which have all come under one bracket of GST. Now there is no VAT, service tax, etc. separately. In India, GST stands for Goods and Services Tax. You need to be aware of how this is charged and how to file the returns, etc. Of course, there are specialists who will help you out in this, but being aware of it is very, very important. ESIPF, that is Employee State Insurance and Provident Fund. When you are employing people in your organization, these are the things you need to be aware of. Labor laws, for sure. If it is a labor intensive industry, labor laws form a very important role. You cannot afford to break these and get penalized for the same. Also, an entrepreneur needs to be aware of basic accounting, finance and marketing, so that whenever there is any issue, or whenever there is a stage which comes where he needs to take care of that, he should be very well aware of what are the things which is going on. Last but not the least, break-even analysis. So when you start a business, you do something and it takes some time for the process or the product or the service to give money back. That is to completely take out all the costs and start generating some profits. The reason why I took you through all these things which an entrepreneur needs to be aware of is some people are very good at one particular trait or their particular core product or service, but they are absolutely unaware of these things. And trust me, as my CA also keeps telling me, starting a company or an organization is like deciding to have a child. So even if the entity is not making any profit, there are a lot of costs involved in running that particular entity, legal costs basically. So you need to be very, very careful when you are doing it. And all these things on a big scale level, if you are aware of, it becomes very, very easy. Now in this session, we will understand what are the different options available for initial investment for business. Now, whenever someone starts some startup or business, definitely some initial investment is required. So what are the different options available? Number one, the most simple one is called bootstrapping. Now, bootstrapping means putting entrepreneurs' own money to start running a business. Now, bootstrapping happens when you are just doing a feasibility study of your business idea or generating the business idea, forming a team. During these stages of a entrepreneurial journey, bootstrapping is the most apt method of investing in your business. I'll take you through two types of investments. One is equity investments and second one is debt funding. So equity funding and debt funding. What is the difference? In equity funding, anyone who's coming to invest in the business is not lending the money for interest, but he is basically taking a equity, that is taking a part of the shares of the company in order to invest that particular money. Some of the equity funding options are: one, angel investment. Who are angel investors? Now these are people with good financial strength. Some people like businessmen, or say for example real estate people who have good amount of money and who are looking for opportunities to invest in some kind of a business. These are called angel investors. Now normally angel investment happens in a stage where you are working on a MVP or a minimum viable product. We have already taken you through that session of checking the revenue case study of the business. That is the stage normally where angel investment happens. Is that enough? No, definitely angel investment is not enough. You might need more money. For that, we talk about other kinds of funding called seed funding. Now, seed funding happens when you are proving that there is a good product market fit. Okay, now that is the stage in which seed funding happens. Now, all these are institutional funding. So now angel investment is an investment from an individual, but the next two or three options are funding through financial institutions. Now, seed funding can be done by a venture capitalist fund as well. After this, there is something called Series A funding, Series B funding, and so on. Now, what is this? Now, Series A funding happens when you are basically scaling your business. Now, you have already checked your MVP. Now, you know that there is a good product market fit, and now you have started to scale. That is when Series A funding happens. Series B is for the growth needs of a business. Now, you might have seen in newspapers that Ola is getting a Series E round of funds from this particular venture capital company, or Uber is getting some kind of a fund, Oyo Rooms is getting a fund, Byju's. Now, all these are basically, they have fulfilled all these levels. Now they are into Series E, Series F kind of rounds where they are actually getting the funding or investment for the growth of the business. The third, fourth, and fifth are basically equity funding options from institutional investors. First and second are basically, the first one is basically bootstrapping, is entrepreneur himself investing his money in the business. Angel investment is individual angel investor investing in the business. Last option is debt funding. Now, what is debt funding? It's very simple. You are basically taking some money from financial institutions like banks for an interest. That's why it is called debt funding. It doesn't matter for the bank. Bank will not ask an equity share in your company, but it will go through the business plan, and if it looks promising, it might take some collateral and give business loan for running the business. Your responsibility is to take the loan and just repay the loan as per the terms of the loan. That's called as debt funding. Now you can see that there are various options available. It's entirely up to the entrepreneur to choose whatever option is suitable for his or her business. What happens in equity funding is, that's why you can see the news about valuation of a company. For instance, when we start a private limited company, you might start with 1 lakh rupees of share capital with say 1000 shares. Okay, 1000 shares of some value. So that is how the company might start. But when there is a funding, now let's say there is a company was coming to fund your organization, and it pays 10 lakh rupees of angel investment or a seed fund for 5% of equity. Now what happens? The total capital becomes 10 lakh plus 1 lakh. So 11 lakh rupees of capital, and now that 11 lakh is not 100%, but now that investor has invested 10 lakh for 5% equity, right? So now what happens is the entire valuation of the company increases to around 2 crores rupees. Initially the valuation was 1 lakh. After this investment, the valuation of the company has increased to around 2 crores of rupees. That's how the valuation of the company keeps on increasing based on the funding which it gets from different investors. I hope you are clear on getting investments. Choose an investment option which is most suitable for your situation and the business. We almost come to the end of the course, Certified Entrepreneurship course. Let's now get into the case study or exercise. Remember that exercise and quiz is mandatory for certification. What is the exercise we are having for this course? Look around for any problem you face as a consumer and think of an idea which can solve the problem. Basically, what is asked is to understand a pain point and design a solution, or product or service to solve that particular pain point. Convert that idea into revenue generating business by conducting a detailed analysis as discussed in the course. After doing this, create a pitch presentation of minimum 5 slides to raise an angel investment for your business. This is going to be the exercise or case study for you for this particular course in case you are interested in certification. Next, there will be a quiz for this course of around 20 questions. The link for this will be shared with those who are interested in certification. This is the sample certificate of this course. After successfully completing the assignment and the quiz, you will be getting this particular certificate. Thank you so much for attending this course. If you have any questions or if you have any feedback regarding this course, you can email us at arunsacademyforsuccess@gmail.com. We really hope that you gained a lot of value from this particular course, and it will help you a lot in completing your entrepreneurial journey. Let's end this course with this wonderful quote by Thomas Alva Edison, who says, "I have not failed, just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Now, this entire thing about entrepreneurship, if you ask me, one thing which is most important is your ability to handle failures. That's the reason in the beginning I said entrepreneur is a doer and not just a dreamer. Please start doing it, and once you start doing, you are bound to fail. So know how to cope with failures, and there is no one who can stop you from your dream of becoming a successful entrepreneur.
Congratulations on completing this online course. We hope you derived a lot of value from it. What next? 1. Implement the learning from the course in your personal and professional life. 2. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. 3. If you want to get a certificate, please do email your interest to us. In order to get a certificate, you are supposed to complete a quiz as well as the exercise or the project as explained in the course. Once you complete your assessment, the certificate will be issued. Note that the price for the e-certificate is rupees 399 and for hard copy certificate is rupees 699 plus GST. This price is to ensure that we are covering our expenses of course creation and certification process. Once you email us your interest for certification, you will be receiving an invoice. Post payment, you will get a payment receipt as well as the link for the assessment. Getting the certificate as shown in the course is purely your choice. Thanks a lot for choosing Arun's Academy for your learning needs. Please do get back to us in case of any query or clarification, or if you have any training requirements. Do write your feedback regarding this course. We at Arun's Academy wish you all the very best. Keep learning and keep growing.